What have the results been of trying to go beyond that?
Yeah.
That's what I look at in the book. Have these efforts helped or harmed Black Americans?
As you point out in the book, the Black unemployment rate is essentially double the white or the national average. What are the programs that were put in place supposedly to help Blacks?
Well, these are anti-poverty. These are anti-poverty programs, and also wage floors. And I'm talking about minimum wage laws, Davis-Bacon, and so forth. And if you look at Black employment prior to the implementation of those policies, you saw much better outcomes. In the 1940s, well into the 1950s, you saw Black labor participation rates higher than what we have today.
And just to put a button on that, it's insane in an America that was manifestly more discriminatory and prejudiced.
That's the point.
You had Blacks
for all the legacies of slavery, all the legacies of Jim Crow, they couldn't keep Black employment from being essentially parallel with white employment in the same environment.
Young Blacks without skills, like all young workers who have relatively low skills, are they priced out of the labor market and then they just can't get work, or are you saying that it's anti-poverty programs that allow them to get by without work?
Well, it's a number of factors. One is, yes, pricing people out of the labor force. When you make it more expensive to hire people, fewer people get hired. And you are particularly hurting less skilled, less experienced workers by raising the cost of hiring them. Now, the left sells this as an anti-poverty program, but most poor households are in that category because they have no workers, not because they have workers who are paid too little. You can't confuse poor households with households with minimum wage workers. And a lot of that confusion results in trying to use the minimum wage as an anti-poverty measure.
The left or liberals, they tend to look at the person who keeps a job and goes from making $4 an hour to $6 an hour.
If they keep the job.
Yeah, but they ignore the people who never get hired.
They ignore the people who never get hired, and they assume that those people will keep their jobs and work at the same number of hours. Let's look at poverty. Between 1940 and 1960, Black poverty in America fell by 40 percentage points in 20 years. That's before a Civil Rights Act, before a Voting Rights Act, before Brown v. Board of Education. Well, during the Brown v. Board of Education phase. Now, it continued to fall through the 70s and the 80s, but at a much slower rate. You had a much stronger Black family coming out of slavery, throughout Reconstruction, into Jim Crow. Two-parent households were much more likely among Blacks than what you have today. And in some years, according to the census, two-parent households exceeded among Blacks. The rate exceeded that among the whites. And the difference today, and I would argue largely as a result of these efforts to help Blacks, you have seen the disintegration of the Black family. And until Blacks repair that damage, which is, and there is significant damage there, I don't see how these other outcomes are going to improve.
What can the government do to actually...
Thanks again for watching yet another Leah Love Online video. If you enjoyed this content, I highly encourage you to please subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you next time.